Shaun, our amazing speaker for tonight. Shaun, floor is yours.
Oh, thank you for having me. Wow, how do I follow that? Look at that. Look at all that value added. It's a lot of pressure, but thank you for having me. You forgot the most important part. I am also a mentor on the Middle East cohort. So if you apply and you get in, you get to have your idea picked apart by me with a smile.
Absolutely.
So once again, thank you for having me. For those that don't know, my name is Shaun Gold, lifelong entrepreneur, best-selling author, keynote speaker, GP at Improve Ventures, and chief storyteller and community lead at OpenVC. We're here today to talk about launching a startup in turbulent times. And I'm gonna break the ice with something very simple. There's never going to be a time that isn't turbulent when you're in a startup. So if you think there's a perfect time and a perfect day and a perfect minute, there isn't. Okay. Right now, depending on who you ask and what you read and where you do your research, this is either the worst time in the world to do anything, or it's the best time in the world to do anything. For a founder, there is no better time than this actual moments. You can't rely on the doom and gloom. Somebody will say that this is there's a reckoning in venture capital. No one's going to invest. Don't bother. But then there's an article that comes out the very next day saying this is the best time to be a venture capitalist. And there's billions of dollars being raised by major players for new funds to invest. So it really comes down to you and what you want to do. And if you have this idea for a startup that you want to pursue. Now, what I mean about an idea, I don't just mean, I want to build the next Gmail. Not that I don't want to disparage the idea, but I don't really think we need another Gmail. And I don't really think you want to do something that's easy and that in your mind might be, a get rich quick idea. You need to have an idea that consumes you. It's the consuming idea where it's all you think about. You can't sleep. It's the first thing you think of when you wake up. You're thinking about it on weekends. You're thinking about it when you're in social events. It's something that just takes hold of you. And that's the kind of idea you want to go after, because startups are extremely difficult. They are inherently risky. They will take a large portion of your life. And because of that, you need to have this idea that keeps you going. And this idea is going to transform you personally. It's going to transform your life. It's going to transform your career. And it doesn't matter if the times are turbulent. It just matters on the idea. And if you have the right idea, it's going to allow you to rely on resourcefulness, not resources, because it's a very common thing to have a startup, seek money, give equity, all that. Forget that. You want resourcefulness. What can you do to make this idea a reality? What can you do to make this idea happen? And you don't really want to rely on, external factors such as an angel, because angels are incredibly hard to find. You want to, especially if you have just an idea, you want to rely on angles. What's the best angle to position yourself? What's the best angle to have this company and grow it and scale it, not just locally, but globally? And it all goes back to the idea. There's a quote I really like that, no entrepreneurs ever use it, so I'm going to use it. And you probably won't see it on a meme or a tweet or anything, but this is something that we should all commit to memory, especially if we are founders or we plan to be founders. It's thousands of years old. It's from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. And he said, out of every 100 men in a battle, 10 shouldn't be there. 80 are just targets, 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. The same can be said for being a founder. The same can be said for the startups. You have to be the one. You have to be the leader, the founder, the CEO that not only leads the company, whether you're raising, not only leads, whoever joins your company, whether the times are good or bad, whoever supports you, your investors or people that just really like you, want to see you succeed. You have to bring everybody back. That is how the best founders do it, regardless of the situation, regardless of the times. But speaking of the times, I did a little research because everyone, likes to shudder and worry and wonder when the time's going to be right. But there's a bunch of companies that you might have heard of. They're some of the biggest companies in existence. And I'm going to go through kind of a small chronological list of when they started and what was going on. First off, Procter & Gamble, P&G, Panic of 1837. Panic is what they used to call, an oncoming financial recession or collapse back in the olden days. Standard Oil, Rockefeller bought out his partners in what became Standard Oil in February of 1865, the last year of the Civil War in America. Coors, the Depression of 1873. UPS, the Panic of 1907. General Motors, the Panic of 1907. Fortune Magazine, yes, Fortune Magazine, get rich and here's how. 1929, just a few months after the stock market crash in the Great Depression. Walt Disney, that's right, Mickey Mouse. 11 months of operations, the 12th one-year anniversary, probably had a Mickey Mouse cake, was the month of the stock market crash in 1929. United Airlines, 1929. Revlon, 1932, height of the Great Depression. Hewlett-Packard, HP, 1935 in the Great Depression. FedEx, the oil crisis of 1973. Microsoft, the recession of 1973, 1975. Charles Schwab, I see the commercials all the time. Market crash of 1974, 1975. LinkedIn, we all have it. I'll put my link below. Say you saw this talk and I'm glad to have you. 2002, post.com bubble. Facebook, 2004, post.com bubble. We all have Facebook. I don't really use it. Feel free to add me if you want. Slack, we all use Slack. Slack is, ubiquitous for startups. Airbnb, I need to sleep in somebody's house anywhere I go. Square, all started in the 2008 financial crisis. So when it comes to turbulent times, it really comes to the mindset of the founder, and it comes to your idea. Do you want to do this? Are you going to let this, stop you, or are you going to move forward? And it really comes down to you, because all these companies, this is historical fact. They're proven. They're around. We use them. I mean, they started in the worst possible conditions. And I'm going to focus on one. I'm going to focus on Standard Oil, because I think, in my opinion, that probably started in the worst possible turbulent time you can ask for. The American Civil War lasted for 5 years, and Standard Oil started again, a few years after. But the company, the partners were bought out by Rockefeller in the final months of the Civil War. So the country was in ruins. Okay, this wasn't some foreign war where the war was happening, an ocean away. We're talking, hundreds of miles, not even, of major battlefields from the opposing forces. It was the deadliest conflict in U.S. history, between 620 and 750,000 soldiers dead. Throw in some civilians, estimates are over 1 million. That's more than all the other U.S. wars combined since then. Spanish-American, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Afghanistan. Civil War tops them all. The president, Abraham Lincoln, assassinated. Country's in chaos. His successor, impeached. So if you're talking about turbulent times, this was the worst time to do anything. You wouldn't want to leave your house. Yet Standard Oil started ramping up and launched what became, in modern times, if not the most profitable, but probably one of the, if not the most profitable, then let's say the top 4 most profitable companies in the world. When John D. Rockefeller, the founder, died, his net worth was estimated in modern dollars to be between 300 and 400 billion. Okay, that's 3% of the entire GDP of the country. That's how it's incalculable how much money he was worth. And again, if he played it safe, if he said, "Oh well, the country is rebuilding, there's 1 million people dead, there's it's doom and gloom, it's ruins." I mean, everything was going wrong, and he just went forward. And I feel like you have to have this ability to go forward, regardless of how, turbulent things may appear. I mean, it's all about how you want to act, and it's all about if you want to use it to your advantage. There's a great quote by Kierkegaard. Again, no founders or entrepreneurs are going to use these quotes, but Soren Kierkegaard said, do it or don't do it. You'll regret both. And there's another quote where he said, if anyone were to think of the outcome of his actions, he would never begin. So you can't think of these, these turbulent times. You can't think of this environment. You can't think of what this article says. You can't think of what the market says. You can't think of what your uncle says. You can't think of what the accelerator says. You have to follow what you feel is right, and you have to go after your startup, and you have to really try and make something happen. It's all about taking action. And, even if the market is good, there's still going to be poor situations and bad situations, because that's where the opportunities come from. The fortunes are made in the down markets. I'll give you another example. So Larry Fink was first Boston's youngest managing director, great managing director, until he logged $100 million in losses. $100 million. He was let go. What do you do after that? It's not like you can go get another job and say, well, why were you let go? Well, I only lost $100 million. Don't worry, it's only money. I mean, it's an incalculable number. So 2 years later, he raised $5 million to start a company called BlackRock. BlackRock now is the world's largest asset manager, with its peak in 2022 having 10 trillion under management. 10 trillion. It's an incalculable number. And it's, you can't even think of how many zeros that is. So, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't a turbulent time. Turbulent times are what, make you go the extra mile, because you can either sit there in doom and gloom and wait for the sun to rise, or you can go out there and give it your best and see what happens. And we can see from just the startups I mentioned and the founders I mentioned that, yes, there's tragedy. Yes, there's economic panics. Yes, there's recessions, but all these companies were birthed from a place of sadness. And, there's some other effects of, operating in turbulent times that I feel people don't realize. One, we're seeing it now with layoffs. Everybody's getting laid off. Facebook's having layoffs, Google's having layoffs, everyone's getting laid off. But instead of focusing on, I hope it gets better so we can get our jobs back, or I can get a job, getting laid off means there's more talent for hire. You have really qualified people that probably thought they were going to have a job for life, or that their career was on a set trajectory, and this career came to an abrupt halt. So you have these people that are probably looking to experiment. They probably want to get involved in stuff, and they probably want to start, their own startup. They want to take a chance on themselves because, nobody wants to get laid off. Nobody wants to put hours and years into a company and then have it, just get a letter saying, sorry, it's a tough time. We love you. It's not you, it's us. See you later. So this is a time to, again, find good talent, to experiment with people, to network with people. And there's so many, ways to do it right now that when I was starting out many years ago, I didn't have. You can network much easier by joining Slack groups. There are a ton of Slack groups for founders, for entrepreneurs, for investors. They're not paywall. They're all free to join. Gen Z VCs, Sudden Capital, Online Geniuses, Founderpedia. I mean, you can just join them and start interacting, and everybody is extremely cool, and you can start networking. There's Lunch Club, which again is free. They say there's a wait list, but trust me, just join. You'll get on relatively quickly. And that sets up meetings with people that, have the same interest in you, whether it's building a startup, whether it's investing, whether it's looking to do a startup. And I mean, these are all free, easy, no heavy lifts required kind of, apps to use. You have LinkedIn, which, again, I think I've reached out to people and 99% of them got kind of back to me. I wasn't selling them anything. It wasn't a copy and paste message. It was an actual genuine message, and people have taken a call. People in the startups generally want to help other people that are in the startup world. We're all kind of in the same ecosystem, or as I call it, the swamp. So, it's something where you want to have, allies, and you want to learn from people, and you want to network, and, even people that are successful in the startup game, they're willing to help others, especially if people are consumed about that idea, so that's something that you want to keep in mind. Something else you want to keep in mind, which again, no one talks about, but I will, is that startups attract sociopaths. It's from one of my favorite startup books, Lucky or Smart. By Bo Peabody, who's had a webpage building company in the 90s, Tripod, really old school. Let anyone build a website at a time when people were asking, what's a website? So, very interesting book, but he's right on the money. Startups attract sociopaths. Ordinary people that are normal in every sense of the word, do not work for startups. They get ordinary jobs. So if you're going to find talented people, expect to deal with some people that have some quirks. Expect to deal with some people that are a little crazy. Steve Jobs had a few quirks, more than a few. He didn't like to shower, or he did just once a week, but he didn't wear deodorant. He was under the impression that his all-vegan diet did not get off an odor. He was wrong. He used to not wear shoes, which was fine. Go barefoot. It's you do you. But he would often go into public bathrooms and stick his bare feet into toilets and de-stress that way, and then put his feet up on the furniture and walk around the office. So again, it's a little weird. There's going to be some weird people, but you kind of need the weird people as as your CTO, as your CMO, as your advisor, because that's who you're going to attract, especially at a turbulent time. Again, ordinary people are not going to take a chance in a turbulent time. They're going to say, "Oh, I'm playing it safe. I'm not doing anything. I'm canceling my vacation. I'm certainly not working for a startup." They're going to take the safe route, but startup people or people that are interested in startups, they're the ones that are gonna, throw caution to the wind, and they're the ones that have quirks. So the quirks are coming. Expect them, and that's what being in a startup is. I mean, that's why a lot of startup offices, for those that aren't fully remote, have ping pong tables and rock climbing walls and beanbag chairs and free lunch and anything else that makes you feel like you're at camp, because that's the kind of people that attracts. So it's something you want to keep in mind, because when you are trying to scale, when you are trying to find the right people, you are going to have some really odd people. Everything from using video streaming, meeting services that you've never heard of. When the world's using Zoom or Google Meet, they're using something that no one else is using because they have some reasoning for it. Just go with it. Everything from that to people that have a very odd behavior. So it's normal. It's not you, it's them. Just be prepared for that. And again, you want to try and find the talent beyond the weirdness. You want to try to find the opportunities beyond the weirdness, because eventually you're going to want to scale. I mean, to really be a startup that is backed by investors, to really be a startup that has a global footprint, to really be a startup that becomes, valued in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, you have to think, globally, but act locally. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you have to test your hypothesis among your region, among your city, among your state. You want to find out if it's going to work, because what works in one place might not work in another. And that's something you want to really, iron out before you go after raising money, before you've put a lot of your own money into building out, the entire product, before you have the product market fit. There's going to be a lot of testing. And that's turbulent regardless if times are good or bad. I mean, I see it all the time as, a lot of startups have, surveys because they want to talk to their customers, and they all want to find out, do you use crypto? What do you use Zoom? What books do you read? Where do you get your news? What apps do you have? How long do you use apps? They're all trying to get the data so they can build something that people are going to use. And it's fine, because you rather spend months doing research and making mistakes than spending years trying to raise money, but you won't raise it because you didn't make those mistakes. So it's just something to keep in mind as we scale and as we try to, think big and take over the world and all that. You want to just focus on, the local area right now. You want to focus on, will my friends use this? How do I get my first customer? How do I get my 10th customer? How do I get my 1,000th customer? Because the problem I see, and it happens to all of us, but you want to avoid this problem, is you're going to have projections when you're pitching investors. You're going to have projections when you're pitching yourself. And if you've never properly scaled the company, we can kind of see through, the claim that within 2 years of launch, you're going to have 1 million users paying $5 a month. I mean, it just doesn't happen unless you've done it before. It's very hard to get 100 people paying $5 a month. I mean, there's a lot of, SaaS tools and a lot of, companies that operate, okay, $5 a month, or, pay 80 for the year, or pay, 45 upfront for the lifetime, whatever. And you're going to have to test that. You're going to have to see what comes from that, because getting to 1 million people is tough. I mean, even if you go viral, it's one thing to get to 1 million people, but then it's another to get 1 million people to put out a credit card and have that card be charged every month. Because even though you think you're charging a low price, let's say $5 a month, people might say it's not worth $5. It's worth $1. It's worth $2. It's worth 50 cents. And you're not going to find that out until you test. You're not going to find that out until you constantly, going back and forth with your customer base. And once you scale, I mean, before you really get to that point, you want to find your top users. I mean, a lot of different platforms, they reach out to me because I'm a top user. I use Lunch Club, for example. When Lunch Club was doing virtual at the start of the pandemic, I was like their top user. I invited the most people. I was always at their events. I was doing stuff. So they'd always reach out to me and they'd always say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So essentially, you want to find these people that love your product, that'll evangelize your product. And that's really the best marketing you're going to have. It's not going to be Google, it's not going to be Facebook AdWords. It's not going to be Instagram ads. It's not going to be TikTok. None of that. It's finding 10 people that love what you're doing, that believe in it, that are sharing it with their friends, that are posting it on LinkedIn, that are signing people up. You want to try and evangelize them to really scale because, people don't like to be sold to, especially by a company. They don't want to do it. They want to be sold to by a friend. They want to go out to lunch and say, hey, I'm using this cool app. Check this out. It makes my life so much easier. Here, download it. And that's it. It's a very natural occurrence, and it's like referrals, but there's no like promo code, there's no link. I mean, it's just people talking about your product, your company, and how it's making their life better. And essentially, as a founder, I feel like we all want to have a startup to solve problems, and not just the problem of I want to make money and not work for someone else, but a problem that people are having, whether it's a problem of lack of connections, whether it's a problem for data, whether it's a problem for, like Uber, I can't get a cab. There is always a problem that needs to be solved. So, you have to have the solution that's not only, the best solution, but the solution that people like using. It's kind of like, why do people use Uber over Lyft or vice versa? You kind of have to figure out if you have, especially as you scale, there's going to be competition. And if you're doing something no one else has done before, you really want to research into it, because as you scale, the reason might be that there's no competition because it didn't work, and there's a saying that pioneers get slaughtered and settlers prosper. So you can build on something that's already started. You could build on a process that's already there. You don't have to be the originator. So yeah. Oh, I got a question in the chat. Sorry, if you have questions in the chat, put them in. I will answer them. I'm here to help you and see if I can get you on the right tracks. Is it easy to find investors if my startup ideas are very good and successful? If we're at the idea stage, I would say no, because there needs to be a whole checklist to take outside money. One, the checklist has to be, is there paying customers? That's one. If there isn't, what are the metrics? Do you have 1 million users? What's the path to profitability? How fast has it scaled up? How many countries are you in? How many regions? Are you disrupting? I mean, the days of coming to someone with an idea, just an idea, and saying, give me $500,000, unless you're an exited founder that everybody knows, or unless you're extremely successful in your own ecosystem as an exited founder or someone that, people trust, VCs aren't going to do it. You need to have things ready to go. You need to have a company that's incorporated. You need to have, the proper structure in place. You need to have the team in place, whether it's you, a co-founder, an outsourced CMO, whatever. You want to have things in place. And again, it goes back to stop looking for angels and start looking for angles. You have an idea? Awesome. Build it out. Test it. Get a Wix website. Put it up there. Show it to your friends. Post it on LinkedIn. Get some feedback. Run a survey. Talk to your customers, but be able to distinguish between what you truly want to do and what your customers want. I mean, Henry Ford had a saying where he said, if I listened to what my customers wanted, I would have built a faster horse. And instead he gave us the Model T and created the automobile industry. So you have to have this idea of what you want to do, but listen to your customer and see what they want. See if it's something that you can, deliver on. See if it's something you can pivot to. Maybe you'll stumble upon something that you're not doing that maybe it's the fresh opportunity. So, essentially, again, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to raise money. You want to have some cash flow. If you're going for pre-seed, you want to at least have a ton of traction. You want to have, whether it's government contracts, whether it's, if it's B2B, whether it's, 80 or 100 or 150, clients signed up already and starting to generate revenue. Again, when I get ideas, I'm happy to help people. But if they're looking for just, hey, give me $500,000, which is a really common ask. Everyone always focuses on 500,000. I don't know why. I think they could probably do it for much less. But we just don't do it. It's just something that, it happens more often than not. and it's just something that, again, it may have happened in the past. It doesn't happen now. People want opportunities. They want to throw gasoline on the fire. They want to have, essentially a reason to give you money. And people are gambling on you. You're asking complete strangers to give you millions of dollars. Now, it has to be something really exciting for them, really sexy for them to give you millions of dollars. And the whole reason is, hey, if I give millions of dollars to the startup, I'm going to get a yacht. I'm going to get a jet. I'm going to get a penthouse. They want 10x money back, 50x money back. If you are doing a startup that is going to, give, let's say you need $100,000 and the best year is going to be $200,000. That's not something that's going to be really sexy. You want to give $100,000 and then exit out for 50 million, 30 million. Very hard to do. But I see it all the time. I mean, even though we're talking about, turbulent times, I want to just give you, some things I've seen from my work with OpenVC and the fund. And this will help you when you create your decks, and this will help you when you actually are ready to raise capital. So one, you need to, don't just come with an idea. Two, have real metrics. Okay, having a Twitter following of less than 100 people is not something anyone's going to care about. I'm sure there's some tastemakers. I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm sure you got some celebrities on there. Great. Nobody cares. If you want to talk social media followings, and most of them are vanity metrics, but if that's part of your sales funnel and that's part of your core strategy, then yeah, hundreds of thousands, millions. Talk about how you scaled up. Talk about that's where your customers are coming from. Talk about how you spent less than $500 to do it, and that's why you're raising money, because now you want to test it out and do it. Talk about, I mean, going back to the idea, I wrote an article for OpenVC, which I'll put in the chat. Essentially on where do startup ideas come from, because coming up with an idea it's not the hardest thing you're going to do as a founder, but it's probably one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do just as a person, to find a really good idea. And the hardest thing to do is to come up with an idea that would never occur to you. It's the equivalent of a frog coming up with social media. You have to come up with something that would never in a million years occur to not only yourself, but to other people, and follow that idea. So with startup ideas, I mean, right now it's never been easier, because you have sites like, you have Quora, you can just ask. You have Kernel, which Kernel, they have a wait list, but whatever. Join, I'm sure you'll get approved. And the whole thing with Kernel is you can just type ideas and say, what does everyone think? And people could say, I want to be a part of it, or I want to, thank you for posting it. You guys are on top. So it's in the chat, but Kernel, you can find people that would want to invest in that, people that want to be your customer, people that want to work on that. There's a lot of AI generators out there. Ask ChatGPT, give me a startup idea. It probably won't be good, but ask and see. And again, it's about finding this right idea, and then it's about harvesting all these other ideas and figuring it out. Okay, is this the right idea? Is this the right idea for right now, this moment to do? And it has to excite you. You don't want to be a founder that, I mean, I met with tons of founders, and you don't want to be a founder that doesn't care, that you can tell is asleep at the wheel. You want somebody that's exciting. You want someone that's going to, go in there and be like, wow, this is awesome. This is the greatest idea I've ever heard. If you don't get on this now, then it's never going to happen. You really want to be, impassioned about your idea and have this passion, and people can see the passion. They can feel the passion. So, there's a phrase everyone uses in venture: it's too early. You don't want to hear it's too early, even though you could have dollars and money coming in. They're going to say it's too early. You want to be fully ready to go when you raise money. You want to be fully ready to rock. You need to throw gasoline on the fire. You need to hire 25 people because you have so many orders and you have so many, contacts, and you're only 3 people and you can't do it. So that's something to keep in mind, if you're going after investors. And the thing to keep in mind also is that some businesses are not investable. You can have a startup idea that makes money and makes a lot of money, and it could just be a small business that is yours, and that's okay. You don't need to be the next Zuckerberg. You don't need to be the next Elon Musk. You need to be the next you. And if your business makes enough money where you can enjoy doing it and you have fun, then you don't need to take investment. And the thing about also taking investment is, we don't really bootstrap as much, we don't give bootstrap the credit it deserves. We have, companies like Spanx bootstrapped to, I forget how many billions they exit for. We have MailChimp that bootstrapped to the largest bootstrap exit ever of $12 billion with no investor help and no investor support, meaning they controlled their company and they got to take all that money. They have to divvy up the pie, they have to slice up the pizza. So, if it's something that you can do and you don't need outside support, or you just need a loan, or you need debt. I mean, right now, venture debt is becoming a thing. But even with venture debt, you still need, at least from my experience of working with people that want debt financing, you still need revenues of 50K plus a month so that, you have some sort of collateral to get that money, but you keep your company. So it's all these little different things that you kind of have to keep in mind. But you're under no pressure to raise millions of dollars. You're under the pressure to build something that is sustainable first to you and your team, for whoever's dependent on you, and for your customers, to make sure that you're there giving them support, making sure everything is going well, making sure that you have something to show, making sure that the product is always evolving. There's a lot of hype in startups, and you have to just discard the hype. Same with the turbulent times. Discard it. You guys know the historical stuff now. You're ready to go. Don't worry about the turbulent times. Don't worry about the articles. Don't worry about anything. Worry about what you can do. Worry about how you're going to start this. Worry about how you're going to make money for your team and your company, and then worry about getting investment. Because once you're at that level, investors are excited to talk to you because that's a metric they want to see. That's something that's awesome. And there's plenty of companies, again, with the hype that they did their Series A round or Series B round, no revenue and all that stuff. Yeah, that can happen, but they probably have millions of free users, and they probably have something in the pipeline that they're going to start doing ads, or they're going to start a paid program, or they're going to go freemium. I mean, there's all these little things we don't see. We only see the exits, and we only hear the really good news. We only ever hear the bad news if it's like a collapse, like an FTX. But startups fail every day. It's common. They're inherently risky, and that's in good times and bad. So again, you want to just go forward with what you want to do. There's no better time than today to start. No better time, because it's not going to be an overnight success. It never is. It's not going to be instantaneous. The people that think it is, that just set up a website, go to Fiverr, get a logo, and are ready to go, don't really last. It's going to take time to find the right people, to find the right idea, to test it out, to build something, and build something that can last for years, and build something that is scalable, and build something that by the time it's ready to go, the times could be different. And then we're in boom times again, depending on who you ask. But even during the boom times, even during the pandemic, when, that was the worst time in the world, there was all these new unicorns that were minted. So, it comes a matter of perspective, and it comes a matter of business risk and personal risk. Is this something you truly want to do? Is this something you really want to pursue? And again, there are so many resources out there that you can use. I mean, just being here in Founder Institute, again, I don't know when it was founded, but when I was doing my stuff years ago, I mean, we didn't know what accelerators were. An accelerator was something that, happened when your car wouldn't start. It's the startup accelerator. We didn't have incubators. We didn't have accelerators. All that stuff came around 2005 and on, and especially after the recession in 2008. So now they're everywhere. Now there's, accelerators, networks, incubators, venture studios. There are so many resources out there that if you have just an idea and you want to find others that you can apply to. So it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. It's a lack of, the commitment. Do I have the time to do this? Am I into this? Do I really, want to leave my full-time job? Should I do this? It comes down to the individual, and it goes back to what I said when we started talking, is that when you have this all-consuming idea, nothing else matters. You follow that idea. And it is better to go the wrong way on your own path than the right way on somebody else's, because you're going to learn more. You're going to see what you're capable of. You're going to test your mettle. You're going to see if you have the grit. You're going to learn, is what I say to all startups in every talks that I do. You're going to learn to eat shit and like it. Okay. You're going to have people tell you, no, I'm not interested. Not my thesis. Too early. And that's if you even get a response. Most of the time, getting to the response is a victory. People just won't respond. That's it. There's going to be just blank emails and silence. So that's something you have to really keep in mind as you do it. And it's a normal part of the process. Nobody wants to read your deck. Nobody wants to hear your idea. nobody cares. Okay. And you have to create something that destroys all that goes through all that. Because once you have that, oh, hold on a sec. Let's talk. Well, what are you looking for? Well, who can we put as an advisor? Who else can we plug you in with? You know, when people get excited about what you're doing, and it stems from you being excited about what you're doing, you know, as well, essentially it's infectious. You know, well, I don't want to use that term post-pandemic, but or it's viral. No, I don't want to use that term either. It catches on. It catches on. People can see it. So yeah, it's just something that it comes down. It comes down to the individual. It comes down to you. And I don't pay attention to what the market's doing. I don't pay attention to what everybody's saying, because it's an inflation, it's a depression, it's a recession, it's a panic. I mean, you know, again, we've lived through it. I've lived through 2008. Okay, we've all lived through the pandemic. We can take it. Okay, we are much stronger than we think mentally. We can handle everything that this world throws at us. So you can handle starting a company and having it not work out or fail, because you can learn from it, and then you could do it again. I mean, there's so many companies that start off as something and then pivot, or it's people that have left the company and then started something that actually worked. And it's part of the process. So there's no shame in it. You keep going, you try what you want to try, you experiment, you test the hypothesis, and you see what works, and you see how what goes down. And at the end of the day, I personally think you'll be better off for it. You will be better off for it in every possible way, because you will prove that you are capable of facing an opponent. And being in a startup, everyone is your opponent. The market, the naysayers, the investors, even the customers that don't want to pay. But it will prove that you can overcome the challenges. And I think that's what really being a founder is about. You know, it's that's what it is. Thank you for the nice comment. What I'm on, water. You know, it does a body good. So with that being said, I'll open the floor to more questions. If you have any, feel free to ask whatever. I will do my best to answer them as best as I can. I will share whatever helpful links we have that, again, are very easy for you to, you know, cramp your cranium, very, very simple, very quickly, and, you know, allow you to personally scale up. Allow you to personally scale up with your knowledge. And when you have the knowledge, you can have the experience. When you combine those two things together, you can be unstoppable. So that's that. The floor is yours to anyone that wants to ask. Mar, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's no questions. I mean, what you covered is amazing. Honestly, you covered from idea to scaling and multiple stories in between, which is awesome, Shaun, as always. Maybe the thing that crosses my mind is, and very, very crucial, you touched on it very quickly, which is you're a master networker, Shaun. So any tips for the founders to at the very early stages, or even I'm sure some people with us now are already launched, or maybe at a fairly early stage. Any tips on how to navigate networking and getting into the right networks?
Yeah, so we're not talking about computer networking, right? Got to have an Ethernet cable.
People.
Yeah, so essentially learning how to navigate people is probably one of the skills that is the most required, but is never taught. It's never taught. I've done a bunch of lectures at a variety of universities. I went to university, and you have to learn that on the streets, essentially, by experience. So with networking, I mean, as I said earlier, if you want to reach out to someone, send them a nice message. Every time someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn with a nice, normal message, hey, I saw your talk, or hey, I saw you're doing this, I just want to say hi, I want to chat, blah, blah, I always respond. What I don't like is when people reach out to me to sell me something that I don't need, like a restaurant franchise, you know, or like, or a personal assistant, or a transformational self-help coach, whatever that is. But again, I think right now the best way to network is Slack is amazing. Okay, Slack, there's plenty of startup communities. Some are more active than others. You can DM everybody. Some won't respond. Most people will. You know, that's an easy thing to do, and say, hey, I'm working on something in fintech. I saw you have something in fintech. I just want to talk to you. So, you know, again, everyone wants to help everyone, because again, being in a startup it sucks. I mean, that's the way it is. It's lonely, it's difficult, and you want to, you know, people get it. People that really do this get it. So you want to join the apps I talked about. You want to join Lunch Club. You want to, you know, join Kernel. Again, they're free. It takes 5 seconds to sign up. You want to expand your network with people that you really want to, be connected with. You want to reach out to other people. You want to go to talks like this. I mean, I've done so many of these Zoom calls and Zoom chats where people just network with other people in the talk. It's no effort. So if you're in the chat, throw your LinkedIn, and you can connect with me, but just say you saw the chat, say you saw the talk. Don't try to connect with me for a transformational coaching thing, because I will ignore it. But yeah, you have to really learn who you want to link with, and second, who's real. That's the most important part, because everyone is going to say I'm an exited founder, serial entrepreneur, blah blah blah. But at the same time, it's like, well, do your research, do your own due diligence, find out if this person is an exited founder or was exited founder, as he went to pitch the Founder Institute and exited. He didn't pass the cohort requirements. They showed him the exit. So you wanna essentially, do your own due diligence and just reach out to people. And once you do this long enough, you're gonna be able to see who, if you have an inner feeling of who's real, and if you want to network with these people, and if you want to be involved. And it's going to take hundreds of people. It's not going to take 5. Okay, I'm constantly meeting people every day, and I feel like out of 1,000 people, maybe like 7 to 10, maybe that's too much, 7 to 10 are going to be the right fit. So it's a matter of finding that one person that can change your life. One connection can change your life. One person can open a door that changes your entire existence. It's happened to me. I've done it for others. It can happen to you if you put the effort into it, and if you really, go after it. And 2, you want to make it about them, not so much you. It's like, I've got a term that's my term. I'm going to start using it more. Venture rats. Okay, you don't want to be a venture rat. If somebody has a connection into venture capital, into an investor, or works in that, don't message them just to get the connection to the money, because we can see through that. Message them because they do have a thesis that goes with you. They do add a lot of value. They do engage in pre-seed. They do invest in your region or country. And just say hi. Say, hey, I'm not ready yet. I want to say hi. That's it. That's the greatest thing ever. Oh, it's so nice you're saying hi. Let me know when you're ready, because a year from now, if they're serious, they're going to come back and say, I'm ready. I've had it happen. All right, another question. There you go. Everyone dropping the LinkedIn's. Yeah, I don't have mine ready. Just Shaun Gold, you'll find me. What's the biggest mistake startup founders make, especially actions that lead them to fail faster? Ooh, that's a good one. The biggest mistake that startup founders make, I don't think there's one. I think it's multiple mistakes that kind of congeal into one massive one. I think there's so many. One, I think that they don't do their due diligence and their research. They think that essentially they're going to be the next Steve Jobs or the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next Elon Musk, instead of being the next you, the next them, the next who they are. I think they try to emulate what other people have emulated instead of being original. I think that they, want to build something that is not something that is widespread enough for everyone to use. I mean, I'll use the Gmail account, because we had this one in the pitch deck roast I did, where someone's first slide said, we're like Gmail, but better. Okay, and that's the worst thing ever. They could have picked a company that no one likes, and it's like, we're better than the company no one likes. But again, Gmail is easy. It's intuitive. Nobody that I've ever met has ever complained about Gmail. Okay, they've never complained about it. So you want to go after a problem that, even if it's a niche problem, make sure that niche has at least 100,000 people or 50,000 people, or something you can profit with. Second, you try to be too big too fast. You don't take the time to research. You already want to just put that you're a founder. You want to start taking meetings. You want to start, going after money when you don't have a product, when you don't have product market fit, when you don't have you have a logo. That's all you have. You have a logo. You don't even have a deck. I've talked to people that don't have a deck, and I say, I don't know what you want me to do, because people are going to say, well, where's the deck? And if you don't have one, then that's a red flag. Second, minor mistakes, as in the type of incorporation you need to be to actually take money, where you should be incorporated. Again, these are things that are easy Google fixes. You can either do it yourself, or you can hire attorneys to do it. And essentially just not doing the research, not being fully ready to launch. I mean, I know that, I say, the time is now. The time is now to start. The time is not now to launch. It's not right, this second to just create the company and all that. You have to figure out, what's the problem? What are we doing? Is this going to be profitable? Is this something, more importantly, I want to do for the next 5 to 15 years if it's successful? Is it something that I want to be a part of? Is it something that after year or two, I'm going to keep doing? Or is it something that I'm just going to be tired of doing every day? That's why people, a lot of people I talk to, especially exited founders, they always jump back in. I've yet to meet someone that is like, that's it, I'm done for life, see you later. They find a new problem and they start a new company. Maybe they're gluttons for punishment, who knows. So yeah. What about when they've already started, they're bootstrapping or pre-seed funding? Yeah, I mean, essentially they could, burn rate is a giant thing. I mean, you want to keep that as low as possible. It's really, it's really tough to throw money on a fire if the runway, just to extend the runway, but the cash flow is not catching up. And again, going forward, I don't know if people are going to be as cool to do it, seeing as they want, really hard metrics and they want profitable companies and all that. So yeah, I mean, again, even if you receive funding and you're bootstrapping, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. I mean, it's a mark that you have the 3 F's, especially in the pre-seed stage, which is friends, family, and fools. Okay, there's a reason we have the fools, because like, oh wow, my friend has a startup, he's going to be the next Elon Musk, I gave him $10,000, and it's like, what? What did he get the money for? Where's the money? Where's the use of proceeds? What's the TAM? The TAM, that's a store at the corner. That's a store I get my groceries, So yeah, I feel like, again, people, you have to have a path to profitability. You have to have a path to a liquidity event, or you have to have a path to scaling to be a really global force and a global player. And there's hundreds of millions of entrepreneurs in the world. And there's a reason that we only know a few ubiquitous, companies that have made it, because so many fail. And it could fail from running out of money. It could fail from the co-founders starting to hate each other. It could fail from government, interference. It could fail from having to declare bankruptcy. I mean, but that's life. It shouldn't discourage you. It's like, life is dangerous. I could get struck by a comet walking outside, and that's in the extreme case. I'm more likely to be struck by a falling coconut, or a needy founder that doesn't listen to anything I say and keeps bugging me, and I can't take it anymore, and I fall over. All right, next question. What is a good approach to make when entering a market with a big player already established but is old school and has had much innovation over time? That's a good question. So we saw that with fintech. So banks never had to innovate. Okay, banks is always the same thing. The money's in a vault. Come wait in line. Fill out the paper. Here's your money. They never changed. Ever since the Middle Ages, okay? They never innovated. So what we saw in the past, 10, 15 years, we saw challenger banks. We saw neobanks that are like, hey, nobody likes going to the bank. And hey, Bank of America doesn't have an app. And hey, Bank of America or Chase, and everyone has all these, these requirements to get a credit card. Why don't we create an app, because everyone has a cell phone where they can just get a credit card or a debit card from their home? And that's what they did. That's what we saw with N26. We saw that with Monzo. We saw that with Starlight. So the best approach is that if they lack innovation, there's room for you to get in there and disrupt it. I don't like using the term disruption, because it's been played to death. We're disrupting this. We're disrupting Amazon. Good luck. But essentially, if they're not innovating, there's room for creativity. There's room to come in there and really, launch something unique, and there's room to chip away. I mean, again, it's like let's use ride sharing. Before Uber and Lyft, it was just like, I'm not getting into a car with a stranger. It could be an axe murderer. Now it's like, okay, give me the stranger for the price they're charging. I'll risk my kidneys. But that's what became overnight. Nobody takes a cab anymore because cab companies didn't innovate. So yeah, I think it comes down to having the right idea, and it comes down to being, extremely innovative, and it comes down to even taking a small portion. You don't have to, there's a reason these neobanks, a lot of them didn't have physical locations, because you don't need them. Okay, you have it on your phone, you're a fintech. And we're seeing that in a variety of different marketplaces play out. So, crypto's trying to do it to traditional finance. Blockchain is trying to do it to record keeping. There's so many different ways to chip at it. So on my startup idea article, which we listed in the chat, there's a picture from Y Combinator, and it says, these are the ideas we really need to fund. And it's a list of industries from mining to the next Hollywood to robotics that, want to be disrupted in a way with new forms of innovation. So yeah, it's all about being innovative, and it's all about being cool, and it's all about going after your target market. Obviously, Gen Z and millennials are going to use a phone if anything possible. if you could have, I don't know, if you could be a dentist instead of on your phone, instead of going to the dentist, it'd be $1 billion idea. But yeah, you really want to come in there and come in with a great idea and see what it is, because either what's going to happen is they're going to start their own, which they have. But again, it takes a long time to put a team together and create a new process and a new product and get it to market, even if you have a lot of resources, because you have to dedicate a division to it, or you have to dedicate teams to it. So you already kind of have an advantage. And, second, by the time they come out, I think you'll already have that market share you want. People aren't going to change to be like, okay, I have an N26 account, but oh, look, Ocean Bank now has an app, the worst bank in Miami, but let me go use it. So that's what I would say on that. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. If you want to just message me on LinkedIn, I'll take the question there. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. Make sure that you saw the video and you're not selling me a transformational coaching course. Other than that, I'll answer it. And if that's your startup, if you are in the transformational coaching space, I do not recommend LinkedIn messaging strangers to scale up. It's not it's not that. Oh, here's a real question. Forgive me if you answered this already, but what makes it worth your time to do the talks like this? One, I like helping founders. I like helping people. Two, I like sharing my knowledge. And three, I mean, it's just kind of what we do. Again, being in startups and venture, it looks fun, but it's not. Okay. So you have to realize that it's okay to have it not be fun. You just need to have someone tell you that it's okay not to be fun. That's what it is. And I feel like in this day and age of social media and Instagram and TikTok, where everybody that's a founder is in a Ferrari or on a yacht, or is, doing something so incredible, we kind of get, the process is lost because most people are faking it. And real people, if you're really building something and you're really involved, you're not going to have time to be fronting and stunting, as they say. You're going to be usually meeting with clients, meeting with investors, building something out. And the only picture you're going to want to show is here's me after my 18-hour day on Saturday when everybody else was at the beach, but I was here at the WeWork, making sure that the server stayed online, or making sure my customers were able to to submit payments. So that's just the reality of it. So I try to bring a little reality and a little bit of fun to the founder journey.
Absolutely. It's always fun to have you, Shaun. Thank you so much. I guess we'll end here. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. And special shout out to Juliet, Daniel, everyone who's contributed. Amazing if you also can connect with each other, follow Shaun's tips, connect with each other. It's always good to have a larger network of founders.
Listen, your network is your net worth, and I always do a ton of different startup talks. Definitely with Founder Institute 100%. But I'm always doing pitch roast. I always have different talks. I'm always lecturing. So there's a lot of resources and value. Plus, I'm always writing because I had content for OpenVC. So I always have articles dropping every single week that will help you, whether it's how to get a job in venture capital, how to get, how to get startup ideas. We have city guides that I help write. So if you're going to Miami or Vancouver or Toronto, wherever, we're going all over the world. If you want to contribute to get some free SEO for your startup, we're happy to do it. I need to know where the best place to work in remotely is in Lucerne. We're doing all this stuff. So other than that, I did see one question. Do we got time for me to answer the one question at the very last?
Maybe I missed it. I don't think we have a.
Did I see it? No, that was a LinkedIn thing. What to do if your startup could fail if a big corporate has just added a few extra features? Well, they're going to add a few extra features, but it's going to take time. And while they're trying to add the extra features, you're going to be creating even more features and entrenching your customer base. It's people always going to go after you. The tallest tree in the forest is the first to get chopped down. Okay, that's regardless if you're an entrenched player or not. The prettiest flower in the garden is always going to be plucked. So you have to be working and making sure that you're entrenched with your roots so that you don't get plucked, you don't get chopped down. So that's what I say. You never stop innovating. In VC, we never stop fundraising. In startups, you never stop innovating, you never stop growing, and depending on your trajectory, you never stop fundraising. So yeah, everyone do your thing. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. Come to our next talks. Happy to answer questions, and yeah, keep on rocking.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Shaun. Thank you everyone for being here. Please make sure to, if you're interested, please make sure to check out Founder Institute's next upcoming cohort, Middle East. And definitely, Shaun is one of the mentors. I missed to mention that.
Yeah,
He's
come on,
also
I'm
very,
here.
very
Mentors,
involved.
and I was the keynote speaker at the last graduation. So if you make it through, not only do you get my mentorship, you get to hear my speech, and I meet with every single founder that graduates for one-on-ones after the graduation. I wish it was in person. I feel like we need some cake. I feel like we need some sweets, maybe some fruit punch. That's the only complaint I have. Do it in person with nice little desserts, and that's the only thing I could add.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Shaun. Great having you, and we'll see you definitely soon. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
All right.